typical security guard here with the wife at the breakfast table. She's making breakfast burritos. Welcome to the As We See It podcast. That's what we're going to call this thing. So today I want to talk about the Apple River stabbing. It happened in Wisconsin in 2022, and it's currently, there's a trial that's going on. Have you heard about the Apple River stabbing?
Well, not that name, but start telling me what it's about, and I'll tell you if I've heard about it.
So, for those who are unaware, the Apple River stabbing is. Hang on, I'm gonna make sure my volume is up. There we go. The Apple River stabbing is about a group of people, well, converging groups of people that are at like a lake area or a river area, right?
Okay.
So just there's maybe like I would say a group of 12. Anywhere from 16 to like 24-year-old, late teens, young adults or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're floating. They've got different inner tubes and rafts and stuff, just like we would do in Missouri.
Yeah.
And in that environment, there's all kinds of people that are on the water.
Right.
So the best that I can gather from like what I've seen is that the group of younger kids, I call them kids, like the young adults.
Yeah.
The area in which they're floating in, they're passing an area where a group of people, obviously before them, have just passed, right?
Okay.
So there's one guy that's filming everything with his cell phone, and they're just being rowdy. They're being young adults, kids, they're goofing off or whatever.
Okay.
And then like this 50-year-old guy comes walking over. And what it seems like is happening is that somebody in his group, the group of older people, right, they lost their phone. So the water is like shin deep, knee high. And so this guy, instead of coming over and like being a decent human being, he kind of is like, has an attitude with everybody. He doesn't really say anything. He just comes over and starts moving inner tubes and looking in the water. Have you seen this on anything?
I feel like I remember seeing this video. Yeah.
Okay.
Not recently, but this is really sparking some memories.
So he comes over and instead of saying anything, he just starts moving people's inner tube and like looking around. And so then like the kids kind of jokingly are like, what the fuck are you doing?
Right.
And he says, what I think he says is like, I'm looking for my daughter's phone or I'm looking for a girl's phone or something like that. And so the kids, being kids, and we're going to get to this, they start kind of like fucking with the guy. So he's moving everything around. He's messing with stuff and he's searching for stuff. Mm-hmm. And then they start going like, what? You're looking for a little kid? He's looking for a little kid. Oh, we got a pedophile over here. He's looking for a little kid. And so now, there's like 12 people that are screaming, yelling, hooping and hollering like on some world star shit.
Yeah.
And they kind of surround the guy and start filming him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you can see that he's kind of got this like awkward, like, kind of look around him.
Yeah.
And then the camera kind of moves and you see one of the kids push him into the water. So now he falls into the water. And once he's in the water, one of the other kids like punches him in the face. Mm-hmm. So everybody's laughing and they're like, oh, for the culture. Oh, for the culture. Screaming, yelling, doing all this world star shit. Mm-hmm. Dude gets out of the water with a fucking knife and starts poking people up. And he's like indiscriminately stabbing people. And everybody is like yelling and laughing and screaming. And you see one of the girls who's like one of the first people to get stabbed. She doesn't even realize she's stabbed. She's kind of like laughing and pointing. And then she looks down and grabs her side. And she's like, oh, fuck. And then people, within 3 to 4 seconds start realizing that they're stabbed. And the guy's camera pans, the black guy's camera pans, and one of his friends is literally on the ground in the water, and he's holding his guts in by his hands. Like, he's literally disemboweled at this point. Mm-hmm. And so now everybody's screaming, everybody's running. The people that are in the 50-year-old guy's group, they're now coming towards the commotion. And you hear the black guy that's filming it.
Is he a part of the young adults or is he a part of the older group?
He's a part of the young group.
Okay.
Right? He's been filming the whole time. You literally hear like everyone screaming. You hear everyone like in agony and pain. And it's so heartbreaking that the black kid is like screaming, this isn't real. This isn't real. Mm-hmm. And as he's saying it, it's like a movie. As he's saying it, there's blood, like literal blood in the water. Like the water is just turning red all around him, right?
Yeah.
Because this boy's guts are hanging out. So 5 people end up stabbed. Mm-hmm. 1 kid dies. So now they're having the trial. Now, what is this guy's? What is his stance? The 50-year-old guy. What do you think that he's saying?
Well, self-defense, and he's
Self-defense.
outnumbered, and
100%, right? First thing, this is like my biggest fear. It's always been my biggest fear of going floating or in the woods or the wilderness. Like, I have told you this from the day that we met. I don't go around.
Say it like it is.
As a black man, me personally, I do not go into wilderness environments.
You meant to say real white spaces like that. But yes, I get it.
I just don't. I grew up in Arkansas. I lived in Missouri. And it's let me just say this before we go any further. It is very like in vogue right now for any time the conversation around race that comes up for people to try and shut it down. I think that is a tactic that is being used by certain political people to not discuss racial dynamics. We're just going to call it like it is. In Arkansas, as a black man, I'm not going to the lake. I'm not going to the river. I'm not going hunting. I'm not going camping. I'm not fucking doing it.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah.
And I can point to so many different reasons, history being one of them, as to why that's not a safe idea. But another issue is that I worry about my kids. And I think that you should worry about your kids no matter what race they are, because when you get a group of kids together, when I say kids, I'm talking about people from 12 to 25. They're kids to me, right? In those environments, like especially now, people don't have any concept of consequences. This attitude that young adults have right now, it's so prevalent that they can just do whatever, they can behave any kind of way, and that people aren't going to do anything because historically, like in school, in people's homes, in society, there's no accountability, right?
Right.
My dad used to always tell me, don't ever forget that we're the only set of parents you have. Other people aren't going to respond to you in the things that you do the way your mom and I do. You're going to run up against people in society that aren't going to tolerate the shit that you do, the shit that you say, or how you act, right? And so, like, young kids today have this attitude because in school, nobody can do anything to them. In law enforcement, no one can do anything to them. In society, no one can do anything to them. Here in Portland, you got people doing fucking street takeovers. You've got people doing smash and grabs. There's no accountability. That doesn't float, no pun intended, when you run across somebody from society that doesn't adhere to that shit. On the flip side, when you look at, let's just say adult society, people are getting so frustrated. They're getting tired of it. I'm tired of it. Like, I'm tired of not being able to enjoy my house. I'm tired of not being able to enjoy my neighborhood, not being able to enjoy my city. I'm tired of all of the lack of accountability across the board. So when those two roads come to an intersection, this is what you have. You have a group of kids that thinks that it's completely okay to get out of control, talk shit, surround a grown man,
Put their hands on
a
it.
group of 12 to 14 people, surround a grown man, put your hands on him, put phones in his face, call him a pedophile, throw him in the water, punch him in the head, and think that he's just supposed to eat that.
Right.
I'm not saying that he should have got up and stabbed these people. I'm just reporting what happened.
There's a lot of gray in here.
A lot of gray.
Things can be right and wrong at the same time.
Right. And for that guy, where do you think you are? Like, in what reality, if I'm talking to the older person in this situation, in what reality do you think that you can just walk into a group of people and start moving their shit around?
Right.
Flipping their stuff up, not having to have any sort of couth or decorum, and saying like, hey, excuse me, I'm looking for something. Hey, can you guys help me find this?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, everybody has gotten to this point where no one feels the need to respect anybody. And it's having deadly consequences. I tell people all the time, in my work as a security guard, I tell people all the time, when they start talking slick, talking shit, popping off at the mouth, I tell them, you are so lucky that you caught me here today. Because if you would have come in and done any of this stuff with some of the other people that work with me, like it would be a different situation. Sorry about that, man. YouTube, man, they be fucking with my streams, dude. For real. They don't want me talking about this stuff. Fucking up the shit. They had to get the numbers down. Mm-hmm. All right, case in point. 6 months ago, I'm working at my location, and a guy comes in, fucking homeless guy comes in, doing what people do. Mm-hmm. Okay, just being on some dumb shit. And as we're walking him out, he's walking in front of me. I'm behind him. I got another officer with me. And he reaches into his right pocket, and he quickly turns around, and he shows me a pack of cigarettes. And I'm like, hey, just go. He takes 2 more steps. He reaches into his left pocket, and he turns around with a stick. And I'm like, and then he takes 2 more steps, and he reaches into his right pocket, and I'm watching, and immediately I cue in that he's pulling out something that looks like a gun. I happen to see at the base of the gun that there's an orange tip, which signifies that it's a toy. And for whatever reason, I take that half a second longer of a pause, and he turns around and he points this gun at me. But in my mind, it told me it's a toy. Don't do it. So instead of drawing and blowing this guy's fucking head off, I stepped to the side and I grabbed his hand and I looked down and I confirmed that it is a toy, right? And I told this guy, we called the cops. We had him arrested the whole night. Yeah. But I told this guy, I said, if you would have done that to someone working on a Tuesday, they would have killed you. But you don't know who you're going to run across in any situation, whether you're that older guy that runs up on those teens or you're the teens that are jumping that guy. Now we get to the meat and potatoes of the conversation. Mm-hmm. He is using, the Kyle Rittenhouse defense.
Okay.
So what's the Kyle Rittenhouse defense? The Kyle Rittenhouse defense is, I can go looking for a problem, find it, and then claim self-defense. And I'm very interested to see how this situation is going to play out and how it's going to go. Did he have the right to defend himself? Yes. But in most situations, you can't insert yourself into a situation, instigate a problem, and then claim self-defense. But it'll be interesting to see where this goes because it really does teeter on this gray area. When does he when does he cease being the instigator of the interaction and become the victim of an assault?
I think it's going to be a mixture of both, meaning instead of them coming after him for murder 1, and I know nothing about this.
Well, it wouldn't be murder 1 because
fullest extent of the law and given the harshest punishment out there, given the situation. I feel like this will probably go both ways.
Like a manslaughter or something?
Like a manslaughter or something like that. He will not get away.
White kid.
Okay. And he's white, the older guy. Yeah. He will get maybe a manslaughter. Hail serve
a little bit of time.
3 to 8 years type of business, I could be wrong. I haven't followed it, so I'm going to have to look at it now. But yeah, he'll get something. He won't come away unscathed, no prison time, nothing like that for something like this if a kid lost his life. So I think the self-defense argument will help in lessening the sentence that he gets and the overall punishment coming to him, but I don't think it will let him walk away unscathed.
This is a snapshot of the fuck around and find out mentality. Men from the age of 30 to 65 are operating with this fucked up attitude of fuck around and find out. And it's prevalent on YouTube. I was watching this channel today. I came across this channel. I'm going to have to do some research before I get into it. But these are former military guys who are either former law enforcement or somehow law enforcement adjacent, and they have an entire video talking about George Floyd and how Derek Chauvin was railroaded and that he should not have gone to jail for kneeling on George Floyd's neck. And how that's a proper police technique. You know, they had every right to utilize that, and that Derek Chauvin just goes to jail for the sake of the BLM movement.
Right.
This goes back to the conversation around optics. Like, I'm not here to debate any of that. But if you're a police officer or you work in law enforcement and it's 2024 and you feel comfortable to even have that conversation publicly without, I mean, you better have like, I don't even know that that's necessarily a conversation that you want to broach. Because the optics of it in terms of how it relates to law enforcement and everything that's happened, that's something that is very, very dicey. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's prevalent with the attitude of people that like somehow you're given this right or authority to kill people in any circumstance. There's no nuance. There's no, you know what I mean? A fight is not a situation that gives you the authority to use deadly force. It's not.
Would you say the same thing
If someone punches me, I don't have the right to stab them.
and if someone punches me, do I have the right to shoot them?
I
mean, you know, there's nuance in all of this.
There's this, but that's okay, but there is nuance, and that's where people have to have some level of understanding of self-defense laws, and just common sense.
Yeah.
Just because someone punches you does not give you the right to murder, to stab them, to disembowel them. That's not how it works.
No, for sure. And I need to go back and rewatch the video. The guy, I think, based on what I hear, he had every right to defend himself. He had every right to stab whoever was coming up on him.
No, you don't.
Hold on. If he's getting punched and kicked,
he wasn't getting punched and kicked. He got hit one time. Not that I'm saying.
Was he standing? I mean, was he pushed down in the water?
He gets thrown into waist deep water.
Okay.
And a guy punches him in the face. Looks like the guy punches him. Either punches or slaps him, right?
Okay.
He's not getting beat like that chick in St. Louis where they're smashing her head on the ground.
So as soon as he was hit, did he pull his knife and stab that kid?
He jumps right up and starts stabbing people.
Okay.
And the first person that he stabs, I don't even think is the guy that hit him. He stabs some random chick.
I'm going to have to watch the video. I feel like you do have I'm going to have to watch the video. So I'm just basing this off what we're talking about.
But in self-defense or something, listen.
He's got a right to protect himself, but it only goes so far. If the people that he attacks with that knife are not the people who are in any of that right, and at this point he's going on a rampage, he does not have the right to do any of that.
No, you don't.
But if he gets punched, if he's pushed down in the water and gets punched in the face and his knife is in his boot and he's got water, even though it's only waist deep, but if he's down in the water and that's all he's got, how is he supposed to discern these kids are going to stop at one punch?
You have to, okay, this is where it comes into,
so
hear me out. This is important because you potentially might have to defend yourself at some point in time, right?
Right.
There's something called disparity of force. Me punching you and attacking you is a difference of disparity of force than you punching me and attacking me. Would you be more, I'm not making a legal justification on video right now. I'm not a lawyer, okay?
Yeah.
But would you have more of a defensible reason to come out of the water and stab me if I was doing that to you? Because of my size, my knowledge, my abilities? Yes. Okay? So the thought process around what I'm assuming his defense is, I was surrounded by all these people. You were surrounded by all these people, 7 of which were teenage to young girls. Does that change things as opposed to being surrounded by 7 to 10 young males?
How many men were there? How many young males were there?
Like, I'm going to
5?
assume 3 or 4 based on the video.
Still to his one. I'm curious. I'm gonna have to watch it. Because if his head was underwater and he came up,
He's not being waterboarded or drowned.
But you are now giving the same argument to me when we talk about self-protection and self-defense, where how is he supposed to know that that he would be then putting all of his trust that only what happened is going to happen?
Are you working for the defense right now, Morgan?
No, I'm just saying he should not have taken it as far as he did. I'm just saying I'm going to have to watch the video. But that is going to be part of the defense in terms of that. If he comes up and kind of just starts swinging, like if he had that disoriented moment, I get what you're saying. But at the same time, how is he supposed to know the moment, if he didn't pull his knife and he stood up, that it's over as of right then, right? That he's trusting that those 3 or 4 guys are not going to come after him, leaving the girls out of it, and that nothing further is going to happen. Like, those kids already proved they were willing to put hands on him.
Okay, perfect. Stop. Okay, you made a great point. They have already proven that they have the propensity to harm him, right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
By the fact that they threw him in the water and punched him. Does that then transfer to him as having the propensity to stab people by walking into a group of people with a knife? And clearly, one could say that because he had that weapon on him, that gave him the feeling that he could come over there and do whatever he wants. He doesn't have to ask anybody anything.
Yes.
I can come over here. I got a knife in my pocket. So guess what? Hang around. Guess what? Fuck around and find out. I'm going to come over here and I see kids sitting on an inner tube. Fuck your inner tube. Fuck your float. Fuck what you're doing. I'm going to do what I want to do because I got a knife. And if you touch me, guess what I'm going to do? So how is it that we can say that it's self-defense because they have shown their inability to not harm him based on their actions? If I'm an attorney, I say the same thing about him walking his happy ass over there and acting the way that he did. None of this would have happened. It cost $0 to mind your own fucking business, right? Zero. It cost $0 to be decent and respectful to people.
Okay.
Zero. So when he walked over there, had he just acted like a decent human being, guess what?
Yeah.
Now, it'd be completely different if he walked over there on some decent, respectful human being shit, and then they threw him in the water, and then they punched him, and then they surrounded him, and he came up stabbing people like a sushi cutter. Like, then okay, I can kind of see that. But how is it that he's absolved from...
He's not absolved. I think a secondary conversation needs to happen at the same time this point you're proving needs to happen.
Which is what?
Those, you don't know in any way what someone has on them. Those kids started at the mouth, right? Like, no one clearly had enough foresight, conversation, wherewithal, knowledge, or anything that had ever happened to make them go, maybe we shouldn't say, do, or act a certain way around someone we don't know.
I already said that. I think the kids are wrong in that.
You know, you don't know if that person has a gun, a knife, a weapon, or something like that. And I think that conversation needs to be had at the same time. It doesn't absolve the guy, and it doesn't make what he did justifiable or right. But I would expect, and I'm sure you do and have these conversations with your own kids, where you go, if someone acts a certain type of way, it's no different than your job, right? Someone acts a certain type of way, you don't go in.
You don't go in hot.
You don't go in hot, even if it's just hot at the mouth, right? Because you don't know what that other person has. So if this guy, unfortunately, yes, if the guy would have just acted with some decency and said, hey guys, I'm looking for a phone, I'm going to come up in here in the middle and kind of look for it in the water or whatever. And then the kids would have acted out of turn. Totally different story, and because you don't know how that's going to go. But he didn't do that. He walked in like he fucking owned the place with whatever kind of attitude that he had.
It's out of control with, like, I don't understand why people just don't realize that everybody isn't going to put up with it. like we're doing a big disservice to our youth and our kids. We had a guy that came into the store. He was already trespassed. We're asking him to leave, and at the same time that we're dealing with this guy, there's a group of Girl Scouts that are selling cookies. So where he's freaking out and throwing a fit and being belligerent, he's right next to these Girl Scouts. And so he's like swinging his arms around, and I ain't leaving. You're gonna have to get me out of here. Blah 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 blah. And so I had to physically remove this guy. I get him outside, and he looks just like my son. I mean, he looks just like my son. And so I get him outside, and he's just throwing a fit. And I'm like, hey, we've already called the cops, and they're on their way. Like, they're not going to have this conversation with you that I'm having with you. I don't want you to get arrested. I don't want you to get in trouble. I just want you to leave. And he sits there and talks shit for the next 10 minutes. And then when the cops roll up, he's like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to leave. And then the cops are like, nope, hey, get over here. And they're not trying to hear it. It's a whole different approach. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But like these kids they don't have any sort of understanding of reality. Like reality in terms of living in Portland, or reality in terms of like, what you can do versus what your friends do. And you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Reality as to like how people are going to respond to women in certain situations and guys. Like I'm looking at the girls thinking like, where were you raised where you think you can get up against this grown man and like get in his face and that there's not going to be some sort of repercussion? You know what I mean? Like, why are you there in that moment getting involved with these guys that are fighting? It's just not looking at things from reality. And then from the guy's standpoint, there's too many guys my age who are being led to believe by these YouTube pages and social media pages and Instagram pages and news organizations that are training guys to think that if you're ever in this situation, you have this right to defend yourself and fuck around and find out. And it's like, no, there's a legal system that is going to insert itself into this situation.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get to just stab people and just go home.
Mm-hmm.
It's just crazy to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And I feel horrible for that kid that dies. It's just horrible.
It is horrible. It is absolutely horrible. I think more people need to be having conversations with their kids surrounding things like this. But again, this kind of goes back to complacency that we talked about the other day. Something, just call me because I just thought of
I just had this thought. Yeah.
I just had a weird ass stupid thought scenario driving home, and what do you suggest I do in this? Has that situation happened to me? No, but for some reason
I would love to know if anybody that's watching this, if you have kids, like, do you talk to your kids and say, look, when the hooping and hollering and screaming and running starts and everybody is running towards the fight, that is your cue to go the opposite direction? Like, are you teaching your kids that? Because when the bullets start flying, it's going to be the innocent bystanders that get hit. It's generally not going to be the two goofball kids that are fighting or the 4 or 5 people that are fighting. They get caught up in it. It's going to be the people that are there to watch the fight. And like, when I was younger, I never told you this story. It's a perfect example. I never told you the story. When I was in 8th grade, it was a Friday. We were coming home on the bus. And, 2 guys were having a roast battle. They're going back. One was named Larry and one was named Lamont. Okay? So they're talking shit. Your mama's so fat. Your mama's so black. Blah, 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 blah. So the Lamont guy was like, hey, all this talking back and forth, like we can fucking dead that, and you can get off to my bus stop and we can just handle it. So everybody's like, ooh. So the Lamont guy, he got off 2 bus stops after me. So me and like 4 other people were like, yo, we want to see the fight. So we decide to, not get off on our bus stop, go to Lamont's bus stop so that we can watch Lamont and Larry get into this fight. As soon as the bus stops, Lamont jumps off and takes off running. He lives 100 yards away from the bus stop. He takes off running. So he's got like a good 50 feet head start on Larry and the rest of us who are going to watch this fight.
Mm-hmm.
We take off running after him. He gets to his door and he's putting the key in the door, and we're about 15 feet behind him. He opens the door and he leans in, grabs a gun off of what I'm assuming is like a shelf, or you know how we got like
Yeah.
guns everywhere. Grabs a gun and then comes around the corner back towards us. Now, luckily, Larry's in front and the rest of us are in the back, and we all fucking like dive like cockroaches.
Right.
By the grace of God, he didn't shoot us.
Right.
Once we all dove and like scattered, he goes in the house and he locks the door.
Mm-hmm.
Could have easily gotten my head blown off that day.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I wanted to go see a fight. And you see that all the time. Everything on video. Like everybody's got their phones out. They're all getting involved and hooping and hollering. They want to get that video. Like, are you guys talking to your kids and saying, listen, catch the live stream? Like, do you talk to Lexi about this? Have you ever had that conversation? Like, there's fights that happen at her school all the time.
Yeah, because you and her sit there and watch the goddamn videos.
Hold on.
I mean that, like, you guys, her and I talk about it, and then of course she tells you everything, right? When she reads
I saw one video
I'm just
of a
saying
fight.
She talks about it,
year
and
ago.
yes, I'm always like, don't be in there, because do you know how old I was the first time someone told me not to even be in the vicinity? I was 27, and you know who that person was?
Me.
You. We were in the basement at Spectators.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we were there doing, whatever, like throwing darts, I think, because we were close to the stairs. And all of you noticed something, and all of a sudden a fight broke out, and you drug me up those flight of stairs so quick. And I remember literally tripping over my feet, and I'm like, what is going on? And you were like, a fight broke out. And I'm like, yeah, why are we leaving? And you said, because there is no way that a fight is going to break out and I'm going to have you standing in a fucking...
It's not going to happen.
Yeah, person out there in the middle. And it was kind of crowded, but you literally said, like, if a fight breaks out, why am I going to have us and you standing around in case someone pulls a gun and you or me get shot? But you were just very... I mean, that was the first time anyone had said or explained, and of course,
dude, I have a math equation in my head, and I'm not afraid to say it. I have a math equation in my head. If there's a certain demographic of people, and it gets over a certain number, I'm out. And there's multiple demographics that fit into that. I have an equation for each.
Yeah.
Sorry. And if there's, if it's a certain time, I'm out. When we go to concerts, when Morgan and I go to concerts, I make us leave like 20 to 30 minutes before the concert's over. I want to be out of that funnel before the crowd because I don't want to get stuck in a
I don't know how many songs they play in a set, but we definitely heard probably at least 10 or 12 max of Morgan Wallen, who was the headliner, right? And then I remember, Cowgirls came on and you're like, well, time to go. And I'm like,
we're out.
Okay, I don't care. Oh my God, I remember that at the Drake concert. I thought you were so weird when you were like, all right, we're going to go. And I went, oh my God,
he hasn't even played work yet.
It's work yet. It just came on. And you were like, sorry, but we're going. And I'm like, oh no. But
because that's when things happen. You know, like if you go to a Chiefs game, like we're from Kansas City, so you go to a Chiefs game, when does the fight happen? When people are leaving. Everybody's drunk.
Yeah.
People are amped up. They're pissed off. You know what I mean? You're congested trying to get out that concourse.
You did break your rule one time, though.
Which was what?
Chappelle, when you took me to Chappelle last year.
Yeah. But even then, I felt really uncomfortable because...
Oh, I know. You literally blazed past 5,000 people, and I'm the one back here getting drugged, going, sorry, as you fucking cut through everyone to get out as quick as possible.
And you had to have your phone, like, unzipped, professionally unzipped. That was, I don't like being in those crowds like that. It's bad.
Yeah.
So, new topic. And this will be the last time that I talk about this whole Seattle security guard thing, but there was a conversation about the equipment that he had, which we already talked about that. But there was also a conversation, which I thought was unfair, a lot about his weight. I didn't think that was right. But people were talking about the fact that he had a beard. And so then that conversation came up with like, should there be any sort of standards for dress and appearance for security guards? Should we have hair length standards? Should we have, beard standards? Should we have any sort of issues around whether or not you can wear earrings or gauges or tattoos or piercings. What do you think about that?
Absolutely not.
Why?
Well, nobody fucking takes security serious anyways, number one. They call you guys fucking, pretend cops or whatever they say, number two. Well, no. We've already had this discussion concerning the military where whatever, so I do not think there needs to be beard, hair, tattoo, piercing restrictions or things like that. You get into a whole mess depending on what state you live in, potentially county, that can get into the cultural side of people's appearances, which can be an entire legal thing all on its own if someone presents cultural, their cultural background in the way that they present themselves. And I just don't feel like that's something that should be standard practice, because it does not make my neck tattoo does not make me any less smart or stupid, right? Now that's a whole different tangent, but no, I don't think it matters what someone in that regard looks like.
One of the things that, like, the last opportunity that I had to join a police department, which was with the Port of Portland, I really liked what I was hearing from the chief. They were overhauling their entire department, and their idea of policing really aligned with what I thought about policing. And I was like really considering it. And then they go, we need to talk about your tattoos. We don't have a no tattoo policy per se, but we're going to need to get a picture of every tattoo, document it, and then have a conversation about what they mean. And, we're going to have to get a waiver for your hand tattoos. And I'm like, you can't sit here and tell me that you are at an all-time low staffing wise.
Thank you.
That you have issues with police integrity, you have issues with people being overly aggressive, not understanding the role of 21st century policing. You can't sit here and have a conversation with me and say, everything that you're saying aligns with what we want to do with our department. Oh, by the way, let's talk about your tattoos. I'm like, this is the problem. It's the same thing. We were talking about the military. The military has tattoo policy after tattoo policy. If you're in the Navy, you can have tattoos here. If you're in the Marines, you can have tattoos here. If you're in the Air Force, you can have tattoos here. Motherfucker, y'all are at 30% capacity.
Right.
30% capacity for the world's strongest military, and you're talking about you got an issue with my tattoos? Go fuck yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it. How, like, again, this is going to be my next t-shirt. Somebody's lying. Because if you're at 30% capacity or 40% capacity, you should be taking anybody and everybody with a heartbeat that wants to serve. If you are a police department or police agency and you're not able to find competent, decent, common sense exhibiting ethical people, and some of those people that you're looking for walk in, but they happen to have hand tattoos or neck tattoo, what does that have anything to do with doing the job? This ain't 1950. We're in 2024, where in Portland, so many other things are completely okay. Mm-hmm. And even in the military, certain things are okay. Mm-hmm. You can come into the military with a whole host of different outlooks or needs, right? Mm-hmm. And that's completely okay. But you're still discriminating against people with tattoos. Mm-hmm. So that being said, yeah, if I'm not a cop, then why are you trying to hold me to a cop standard of
and
hair
even as a cop,
clothing?
I don't think cops should be held to a standard with tattoos and that, because it's no different than we have this conversation kind of racially, or I'll say demographically, concerning policing, right? That people living in the communities that they police would be very good, very beneficial, right? Instead of bringing in people from other jurisdictions or other places, someone who works in, someone who polices the $1 million homes on Burnside and all these, affluent people, and that guy going into the hood and policing those people.
It's different.
It's different, right? And so I think, we're of that time where like it really should not matter in terms of those things, because we walk out the door and I don't know that I've seen like a single person without a visible tattoo in Portland, right? Like everyone has ink or hair or piercings, like things like that, where you are kind of emulating what not you, but in general, like it's
I
emulating
will
the people
say
you're
I
around.
will say for Portland Police Bureau that I call it liberal jujitsu, because you accept everything, so then you end up not being able to enforce anything. So when I had a court case back in February, I think I went to court in February.
Yeah.
When I went to court in February, the responding police officer, he had this like flowing mullet and earrings. And I was like, when did they start allowing you guys to have a mullet? And he goes,
Blake Shelton.
I mean, basically, he had a waterfall, man. It was beautiful. But he was like, look, he goes, someone on the force challenged the hair standard, because it used to be that women had to have their hair above their collar. And then it came to where, like, they could wear it in a ponytail. And then they made it to where I guess, like, someone maybe based on religion or something was like, I need to be able to have my hair longer. And so since they okayed that, then that opened it up for the men. So the men were like, well, hey, if they can have their hair like this, then so can we. And in Portland, they've got to be accepting. So it was like, okay. And then it was like, well, if the women can wear earrings, then so can guys, right? And they were like, well, I guess, okay.
I think it would be okay to have very basic standards. If your hair is past a certain point, if your hair is able to be put into a ponytail or, like be able to be confined back, it should be while you're on the job. Or if...
For cops or for security?
It could be across the board in some, like, it depends on the job. If I worked in a mechanic shop and I'm dealing under the hood of a car with running fans and all kinds of things like that, and I let my hair get fucking caught up in something because I'm leaning down and my hair's not pulled back, like, it's no different than you guys. Can someone use your hair as a weapon? Can someone grab onto that? So I think it would be okay to say you can have however, and it's no different than culturally, or someone, like, if you decided to get dreads, they just have to be tied back, right? Like, just out of the way based on safety of the job that you're doing. I don't think that is crossing a line. I don't think that's inhibiting people, saying you can have your hair however you want. Just if it's to the point that it is in your face, it just needs to be able to be pulled back.
Like big gauged earrings would not be good in security because somebody could grab those, right? I mean, they would only grab them once. I mean, you personally know from personal experience, like having a septum ring and nose rings. Like when our dog attacked her and ripped her face apart,
right?
He ripped out those nose rings. So
I was just more upset that they were gone than anything. But yes, yes. But I think even with gauges, I think if someone is going to have huge gauges, it would not be across the line if they say, like, my gauge is solid. So I know it's not huge, but even if it was, if I had a spacer in there where you could see through it.
Yeah, you'd have to put, like, if you said you can wear a gauge, but it's got to be a plug.
It's got to be a plug, so that way someone can't literally hook their finger in there and just yank on your ear. I think that would be acceptable without having to tell, or without telling people, like, hey, you can't do X, Y, or Z. I feel like just kind of standard practice. Like, it's no different than nose rings, be it septum or on the sides or things like that.
Do you think time, place, and manner of, so, like, let's just focus on security. Mm-hmm. Do you think time, place, and manner of where you're working should dictate it? Because, like, where I work, around a bunch of homeless people and drug addicts, like, me having tattoos and long hair kind of fits in, right?
Right.
But if I was working in a more corporate setting, if I was working in Lake Oswego, then, maybe I wouldn't fit the right...
No, because then I think a stereotype would step in, and people in Lake Oswego would be really happy to have someone who looks as menacing as you do protecting them. Sorry, that's just me calling it very much how I see it, but no.
In your equipment critique of the Seattle security guard, you missed one thing. Dude was wearing 2 badges.
I noticed that too. One on his chest and one on his
I don't
hip.
know if he was wearing 2 badges or was one like a flag.
I couldn't tell, but he had one on his chest and one on his belt. I did think, why does he have 2 on? But that could be a little.
Yeah. I don't understand why people, like, where's your common sense? Like, why are you wearing 2 badges? I'm not the equipment guy who's ever gives people a hard time about what they're wearing, but 2 badges seems excessive. Like, why would you have 2 badges? Now, maybe he can say, I honestly don't know. I don't have any answer for that. I don't know why he had 2 badges. It looks ridiculous to have 2 body cameras and neither of them on. The only thing that I could think of is that one of your body cameras is for your company, and then you're attempting to use the second body camera to get footage to upload to your social media or for yourself. Maybe he's saying that, like, the body camera A is for the company and they have access to that. I want body camera B so that I have a backup in case anything ever happens. Guys, if you're working in private security, there's no way for you to cover yourself. This idea that there's something that you can do that is going to absolve you of the result of your actions is a fallacy. So people are thinking, I'm going to get up. This is what I hear all the time. I think it's bullshit. I think that this is bullshit, but I'm going to go with it for the sake of the conversation. I hear people all the time say, I need a body camera as a security guard so that I can cover myself in the case that I'm ever accused of something. Number one, you're full of shit. You want to record that stuff so that you can upload it. You know how I know? Because I have a YouTube channel. And I think to myself all the time, boy, if I could upload the shit that I deal with on a daily basis, I would have 1 million followers.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not ethical. Okay? So that's number one. But if we just go with it, the fact that you have something on body camera is only going to cause you more problems. Let me explain to you how, for those of you who don't understand. In law enforcement, the department either mandates that their officers have body cameras, or if you're in Portland, it becomes a complete state and federal fiasco because Portland Police Bureau has fought against having having law enforcement officers wear body cameras. We could argue why. Okay, let's not go down that road for that rant. But in security, you're not a law enforcement officer. So there's so many things that come into utilizing a body camera. Are you audio recording or are you video recording? Because in certain states, audio recording is a 2-party consent situation.
Right.
You cannot audio record someone without their consent or their knowing. Okay? In certain states, audio recording is a 1-party consent thing. In certain states, video recording on private property might have certain restrictions. If you're working for a company, let's just say Walmart. At Walmart, that's a private business. If you as a security guard are wearing a body camera at Walmart and you're working in the downstairs area where people are coming and going, that private business as a corporation has certain areas of their interior business where their employees have a right to privacy. It might be the bathroom, it might be the locker room, it might be certain areas of the staff lounge. Dude, they are killing me today. It might be certain areas of the staff lounge. And if you're working as a third-party security guard, you don't have access to that information. You don't know where certain areas of the business are off limits to being audio and video recorded, right? On top of that, any and every situation that you get into and you're wearing that body camera, now your care and custody of control of everything that's ever been on that body camera comes into question. So that issue with the lady in Seattle, she gets to say, her attorney is going to say, Why are you wearing 2 body cameras and not recording? Were you not recording because my client was a female? Were you not recording because my client was black? Were you not recording because my client was gay? So on and so forth, right? Or if he was recording, are you recording because my client is female? Are you recording because my client is black? Are you recording because my client is gay? And then your answer is, no, I record everything. Great. I want every video recording for the last 365 days because your local police department, they keep a hold of all of their interactions for 1 year. So I'll take every interaction that you've ever used that body camera for. And now you as a security guard go, because guess what? You don't turn it on every time because you can't, right? Or maybe you do. And now this time you didn't.
Yeah.
Do you see the legal wrangling you've put yourself in? On top of that, let's just assume that you do everything right. You record every interaction. You upload it via the cloud. You never have any opportunity to tamper with it or do anything to it. You know the areas of the location where you can record or not record based on company policy for the third party company that you're working for. Is it in your state regulation that as a security guard, you are supposed to be using a body camera? No, it's not. It's not in Oregon and it's not in any other state. There's no state mandate that says security guards are supposed to be wearing body cameras. So now it comes to, does your company mandate it? Most companies don't. So now you're one of 60 officers in your company who's wearing a body camera. Why are you, Mr. Bunting, the only person wearing a body camera? What type of nefarious thought process do you have that you're recording people that you're interacting with? You have to think about your job from the position of a district attorney or a lawyer, because at the end of the day, it ain't the people on YouTube agreeing with you that are going to be at the fucking court appearance. It's going to be you and an attorney who's looking to get a lot of money from the contractor and a lot of money from the company that employs you and looking to take your fucking job. And the fact that y'all continue to want to argue with me about this is absolutely asinine. I had somebody write this long diatribe. I'm from New York. I'm a former cop. I do body camera stuff, this, that, and the third. And I think that security guards should all, I'm assuming this is how somebody from New York talks. Security guards should have a body camera, and only people that don't want people to know what they're doing don't wear body cameras. Okay. All right. Pull that shit in court and see what happens. I am not the smartest person out there, but I have very good common sense. And I know how things get twisted and used against you, primarily in places like Portland, because I sit back and just watch this shit all the time. But I tell people, there's probably weekly, I come across a security guard somewhere that's wearing a goddamn body camera. Hey, man, I wouldn't do that if I were you. No, you don't understand. It's so that I can protect myself. You can't protect yourself. You could have everything on video that you did everything right. You did everything by policy. You saved someone's life. And at the end of the day, because of the media coverage that it's getting, the organization's going to go, get him out of here. And the company's going to go, let him go. We don't have a union. There's nobody for us to lean on and say, hey, this isn't fair. Fare your ass out the door, homeboy. We don't give a shit. You're done. Nobody cares. And y'all acting like it's up for debate is absolutely ridiculous. But y'all gonna keep wearing them body cameras and incriminating yourself and saying stupid shit on camera. The things that I hear you guys say on body camera, I'm like, oh my God. Speaking of which, last topic. Let me see your phone for a second.
Yeah.
You got the same passcode? If you don't have the passcode to your partner's phone, y'all cheating. Give me 1 second. Ton state. Okay. So something caught me kind of off guard with that Seattle thing. The lawyer for the young lady was saying that, that the security guard was bullying her, he was harassing her, and that he had assaulted her. And I said, "What?" Like, I've watched the whole video. He didn't touch that chick. He didn't do anything, right? And then I started thinking, what is the definition of assault in Washington state? So I just looked it up. It says three definitions of assault have been recognized by the state of Washington: an attempt with unlawful force to inflict bodily injury upon another. Number two, an unlawful touching with criminal intent and putting another person in apprehension of harm, whether or not the actor actually intends to inflict or is incapable of inflicting. So I thought, where is that assault? The security guard has a pair of handcuffs in his left hand. And she asked him, if I don't leave, what are you going to do? And he says, I'm going to take you to the ground and I'm going to detain you while holding a pair of handcuffs. Mm-hmm. Okay? The unlawful touching with criminal intent or putting another in fear of apprehension or harm, whether or not the actor actually intends to inflict or is incapable of causing that harm. That's what that attorney is saying, is that by him having those handcuffs in his hand and threatening her without any unlawful...
Read the first one again.
An attempt with unlawful force to inflict bodily injury upon another. Mm-hmm. So since he doesn't have the legal authority to be making that approach, and he doesn't have the legal authority to detain her because she hasn't done anything, the attorney is arguing that that's an attempted assault.
Mm-hmm. He's going to get it.
He's probably going to get that, right?
No, he is going to get it because of what happened to me when I was 17. Like, he's going to get it. That lawyer's going to get it.
So for security guards, you guys got to be very careful about retrieving or deploying your tools, whether that's a set of handcuffs, whether that's OC spray, whether that's your firearm, your taser, your baton. Like, if you don't have the legal justification to be able to articulate why you are grabbing those items, you have to be careful. And if you don't have the legal justification to be involved in that conversation or that interaction with that person, you might be putting yourself in a potential criminal situation. For our company, anytime that we retrieve an item, we're supposed to write up a report for display of force, not use of force, but a display of force. If I were to grab my pepper spray and simply pull that pepper spray out, that's something that technically I should be writing a report on. If I were to, unlock my taser and present that taser, I should be writing a report on that. Because that person could then come back and say, hey, this was a non-policy stop. He's not loss prevention. He's approaching me about what I have in my bag, very much similar to this situation. And in doing so, he pulled a taser. Hey, man, I was in fear that he was going to shock me. That's 50,000 volts. That's assault. So, if you guys I would check your policies and I would talk to your supervisors, but that's something that we need to be very, very aware of, because now that this thing has gone viral, not that I don't think most attorneys that are in these areas, Seattle, California, Minnesota, Chicago, Portland, I'm assuming most of these attorneys are well aware of this. But now that this situation has gone viral and it's kind of hot out here in these streets for security guards, I would be very aware of that.
Even on a personal front, if at minimum, if he would have cornered her, and or if he did have her cornered and didn't have anything in his hands based on what we just said, they could still get him for an assault charge.
Yeah.
Even if he didn't have anything in his hands. Now, mine is not security based, but that is what happened to me. I dropped my friend off at home. Like, we went up to Kansas City to spend the weekend with my dad, and when I brought Adriana home, as soon as I pulled up in front of her house, a truck flipped his headlights on and pulled in and blocked the front of my car. and his truck was lifted and whatever, but like literally blinded me. And in 2 seconds flat, my window was down because I was driving. Someone was sticking their head in through the window, and he stopped at the last minute when he got right in my face because he thought I was my brother. I had short hair at the time, and the only thing he said, the first words out of his mouth were, "You are so lucky I noticed your tits because I about knocked your fucking head off." Because I had a V-neck shirt on. He thought I was my brother, and that my friend, was
I've
with my
seen her
brother.
brother's tits. They're not as nice as hers.
Yeah.
So I can see
But
where.
I had short hair then. Like, literally, I had a fucking, damn near a buzz cut, and I was wearing a beanie. And so I literally
Why did he want to beat up your brother?
Because the guy is the uncle of the ex-boyfriend of my friend. Like, it was some bullshit drama that I had no clue about, right? Like, I knew my friend and her boyfriend broke up.
Where did the assault come in?
The assault, so the situation played out. He said that the girl, Adriana, is getting out of the car screaming at the guy, like, get away from her, and blah, 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 right? And it scared the fucking shit out of me that by the time I make it the mile to my house, I'm fucking crying, and I tell my mom what happened, and I'm like, I heard her say that it was this name, and mom, my mom's no bullshit. Like,
how did they say it was assault?
So she called, and the sheriff came out, and the deputy came out, and I reiterated what happened, and then I got a call a couple of days later, and he said, we're getting him on assault, either 1 or 3, whatever the lowest is.
Because he had put you in fear?
Because he had put me in fear. He had breached the window that was down, even though he did not physically touch me. He said, I can, by law, slap him with this assault charge. Do you want to? And I, of course, was like, yes, I fucking do, because who does that to...
Right. To anybody.
And, I'm a high school girl, and this man was in his mid to late 30s. So someone twice my age and who has no clue who I am.
He was one of the original fuck around and find out guys.
Yes.
That's crazy.
They got him on a low assault charge, and he was arrested, and the sheriffs called me within the week, and they served him, arrested him, and he had to deal with that. And so for me, the fuck around and find out, of course, was just a matter of, like, I wasn't backing down. Because even at 17, I knew that. But he didn't have anything in his hands. He didn't actually touch me. But they got him on that. So
guys, be careful with that.
Yeah. If you corner or intimidate somebody like that, depending on the state and the laws, you could get an assault charge.
All right. Let me see some of these comments. Somebody said they're watching from England. My sister used to live in England. My sister lived in England for... like 4 years, and then she came home with a British accent. I was like, bitch.
What?
So somebody said they want to see what you look like.
No, not today. I don't even have a face on. Stop.
Somebody said, what's going on in Arkansas? The lesson I learned from the story, leave knives are no joke. Yep. Someone says not guilty like Zimmerman. Oh, ha, 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 ha. I see what you did there. Equal level of proportionality of force. Yep. So people are talking about the river stabbing, and a lot of people are saying it's self-defense. Yep. Someone says he was punched and kicked.
I'm going to have to watch it now.
There were 6 guys, and then somebody agreed with you. Great point, Samuel. Samuel says, if you're afraid of the group, why did you go over there? Great point. Yeah. Somebody says, if I'm surrounded, God help the other team. The shadow realm is going to open. Yeah, most people are saying that the guy defended himself. And guys, look, let me just say this. I am not taking away from the fact that he was attacked, in that he was, in a sense, defending himself. What I'm saying is that there is a proportionality of force. I agree with my guy PBE. There's a proportionality of force. Most people have it in their mind that they can just assess the situation and then respond with deadly force, and you can't. Someone punches you, that's a fight. And it's crazy to think that you, as the potential victim, the most important thing I can share with you guys, it's crazy to think that you, as a potential victim, have to go through this algorithm of A, B, C, D, E, F, G before you do anything. Okay, I've been punched. There's 8 people around me. And out of those 8 people, 5 are young females. The other guys haven't engaged me. Do I get up and get into a fight with this guy? Do I get up and run? What do I do? How can I position this in a situation to where I'm legally defending myself and not putting myself in a situation where I'm now doing something wrong? And it's crazy to think that in a split second you have to do that. But all of your thinking and all of your thought process has to happen before you put yourself in that situation. That's why you don't walk over there. And if you do walk over there, that's why you walk over there with some goddamn common sense. Now, if you walk over there and you act like a decent human being and things pop off, now you are more legally justified to do what happens in that situation. I don't have any sympathy for people who get what they have coming to them when they are the aggressors. But there's a lot of gray area.
But where does the argument, I won't even ask, I'll state this. The argument is going to be, where does that aggression start? Did it start with the guy coming over there and doing that? Or is it going to be...
We have literally circled right back to where we started.
I know, I'm just saying. Or does it start where the kids put their hands on him? Just because you carry a gun doesn't mean you're looking for a fight. Is that a true statement every time you walk out of the house?
That is true.
But you still carry a gun for self-protection.
Yes.
And this gentleman, if he carries a knife with him, or they're on the river, like everybody has a fucking knife when you're on the river, right? For a multitude of reasons that have nothing to do with wanting to stab someone or multiple someone's. So at what point is he allowed that same courtesy of, like, he carries a knife and is outnumbered and doesn't know? Plus, today's youth, y'all ran after the story you just told us. You guys ran after a kid who wanted to fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
The one who said, get off of my bus stop so that we can fight this out. Clearly wasn't thinking things through, because as soon as he got off the bus, he took off running. Next thing you know, he's got 5 or 6 of you running after him. And I'm not saying he was right to grab that gun.
Would he have been justified to shoot us?
No, and you know damn well Arkansas 40 years ago, 35 years ago.
40 years ago? I'm not that old. Golly.
Okay, 35, 32 years ago. You said you were 8th grade. You couldn't have been
I'm
more
not
than
60.
You couldn't have been more. Okay, 33 years if you were 13.
All right. That's better.
I'm just saying, 30 plus years ago, he'd still be in prison today, even in 8th grade, if he would have pulled that trigger. That's beside the point. I'm just saying, the point is, several of you ran after him, and he's holy fucking shitting it all the way home. Like, and that was even then. So today, there's no...
Maybe I am that old. I just tried to stand up, my knee popped.
There's nothing like it was 50 years ago. 2 people get in a fight, and they get in a fucking fist fight, and then it's done. Right? Like, there is none of that. The Lexi, what she shows us on her phone, 2 girls get in a fight, and guess what? 3 of her friends are jumping in to try to whoop that girl's ass too, because there is none of that. So you're kind of asking someone who walks into a situation like that, meaning the older guy, to blanket, oh yeah, just the one kid pushed and punched me, so me and him are going to be the only ones who fight. He's thinking, no, there's 4 other dudes here.
This guy says they legit start to record him and call him a child molester for no reason, then escalated it and assaulted him. He had every right to defend himself from 2 or more of them.
Did the girls get involved?
They were like filming him. I'll show you the video, but they're just, I mean, the girls, only one person pushed and hit him. And when he,
But were they running up and either way trying to diffuse the situation? Were they?
No, all the younger people are instigating it. They're all just like, I mean, it's like everything you see. They're all just like,
Yeah.
That shit is so annoying, by the way.
Yeah.
Like,
don't do it again for the camera. We get the point. Yeah.
It's like Jumanji. Like everybody's just like jumping and fucking.
I could go on forever, but I do have a question, and it could drag it on. I'm sorry if you don't want me to
No,
ask
go ahead.
it
You're
now.
fine. We're almost done. Go ahead.
At what point do conversations, or are conversations happening? Do you have these conversations with your girls about not inserting themselves in between men or in situations we're fighting? And I'm being gender specific here, and I know that, and it's purposeful.
I've tried, but they ain't trying to hear it. Like, my oldest daughter is more receptive than my youngest daughter, and my middle daughter would never put herself in that situation anyway.
Right.
But the older and the younger are on two polar opposite ends, and you know that with
Right.
everything, just about.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Well, I didn't know, and you had kind of mentioned that earlier, but it's like, the ideal that well, that gets into a different topic. I was just gonna say women putting their hands on men, and then when things happen, that could be a whole different conversation that we can have.
Someone said the amount of children and teens who are on their phones on a daily basis and not paying attention is insane and extremely unsafe. I agree.
Who's responsible for monitoring the use of that phone?
Ooh. That's right.
Who
Parents.
buys them that phone at 8 years old?
That's a good point.
Those are legit questions. I'm not being facetious.
Somebody said that they wear a body camera because their company mandates it. If your company mandates it, that's different. I still think that it's a slippery slope, but if your company mandates it, it's different. Security Services Northwest. I used to work for them, by the way. Just got a robot for patrol. Doesn't surprise me.
A what?
A robot. They use those like robots I showed you.
Oh, they could afford to do that?
It's because he doesn't want to pay people.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, y'all want to see this really cool? Hey, I want to show you guys my Jason Voorhees shirt. Hang on. I got to pull my pants up because my ass is hanging out. Hang on a second.
Oh, let me scroll.
Stop.
I'm just moving it up.
They're going to shut my stream off. They're going to be like, what the hell? All right. You ready?
Yep.
All right.
I'm going to assume that they can see it. Hang on. I got to move the camera a bit. I don't know if they can see it. Am I on you? It is really cool.
Jason Voorhees Camp Security Services. Available on the Bones and Brew website, guys. Get yourself your t-shirts. Security guard merchandise.
They are really fucking cool.
Yeah, some cool shirts. All right. Well, we talked about a lot. Recap. Don't insert yourself into groups of teenagers and young adults. They are crazy. Teenagers and young adults, don't think that everybody is going to accept and deal with your bullshit. Yeah, what else we talked about? Don't threaten people with tools in your hands. That could be considered assault. And then we talked about standards.
I'm done, and I have one more question. The girl who gets stopped in Seattle by the guy, based on the video, if someone stops someone in a situation like that, we're past the point of should he have stopped her to begin with. We don't know his post orders. We don't know what his scope of
employment.
Not employment, but what his scope of authority is. Okay, so he crossed that line. Should she have, or should anyone just go, here's my bag type of business? Like, I know if I was in a store and someone approached me and said to me, like, hey, manager thinks you're shoplifting, or I don't know, whatever he kind of leads with, and I didn't, I know the first thing out of my mouth is going to be like, sorry, bro, but like, here's my bag, and I'm going to open it. And I know that begs the question of people going, no, you can't just stop and search someone, right, and accuse someone, but I feel like that would be my response, because at this point, like, if I'm not hiding anything, I'm immediately wanting to get on with my day, and I just feel like that would be my automatic response of being like, yeah, no, there's not shit in my bag.
Well, listen.
Or,
we have constitutional rights in this country, and they should not be violated. So, if you start saying like, hey, we should just do it so that we can move on, like that's what our, without getting into a rant, that's what our government wants, is for you to just allow anything in the vein of convenience. Yeah, I'll just show you my license and you can run my, run my security number and my license, and I'll, that way we can just get this over with and I can go on about my day. Yeah, sure. You can just, get the serial number to my gun and put it in a registry so that, like, it's easier. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, where does it stop? So,
That's a good point.
you don't want to just give up your right, any of your rights, to allow for there to be more convenience. This is why it's so important, and why, even though people get frustrated and they get upset, this is why loss prevention is so important in how they do their job. Those 5 elements of watching the person go into the area, select the item, tamper with or conceal, walk past all points of sale, and go out the door. Now there's no question as to what that person did, right? So if you're doing it that way, if you have constant observation of that person stealing, the only person that loss prevention or security or the police are interacting with is the criminal. You should not be subjected to opening your bag to show anybody shit if you haven't done anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, no, she shouldn't have to do that. I asked a question yesterday where I said, if you were the officer, all of us security guards, if you've been doing this long enough, you have a way of inferring to someone that you think that they are shoplifting without outright saying it. Okay? And there's times where any security guard has overstepped that line of what you're supposed to be doing, and you've gone into a loss prevention area where your job is security. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say that I've never done that. Okay? So my question that I asked yesterday was, if you were involved in that and now you realize, hey, I've made a mistake here. I walked up on the wrong one. And this person is not going to allow me to intimidate them into showing me what's in their bag, confirming or denying that they took something, giving up what they have, right? I asked the question, should you as an officer cut bait and apologize? Or do you do what this guy does and just like keep riding it out? And most people were like, well, if you go, hey, look, I apologize. I might have mistaken what I heard. Maybe I got you confused with somebody else. You know what I mean? Because he said that he got a call. You know what, ma'am? Honestly, they might have thought you were somebody else. I apologize. I'm sorry. Do you do that and then document that and then take whatever comes down the pipe? Because I know my supervisor, if I sent him an email and said, hey, transparency report, I thought this person was shoplifting, and I went over and I made a non-policy stop and I approached this person. And upon the conversation, I realized that I was wrong. And I told her that I apologized, that I meant no disrespect, no harm, and I'm informing you. My supervisor is going to say, that is not in your post orders to have done that. Why did you do that? And more than likely, I'm going to get reprimanded and I could get terminated, right? Mm-hmm. But short of doing that, if you ride it out and you don't report it and you don't say anything, you end up in this other situation. Like,
yeah,
I would rather be open and honest and transparent. I had a very similar situation. I don't know if I told you this. We had a lady that came in, I'm assuming a homeless lady, a drug addict, I don't know if I should. Okay, I'm gonna change some of the story so I don't incriminate myself, right? But this lady came in and she was freaking out. She's throwing shit. This is what I deal with on a daily basis, right? Mm-hmm. She had a very distinct look, certain type of hair, stretch pants, Ugg boots, jacket, okay? Black, all right? Loss prevention comes down. The manager for loss prevention comes down and he trespasses her. Hey, you got to go. And she's throwing shit and she's screaming. She's acting a certain way. And we get her out of the store. Don't come back. You're trespass. This happens at 8 o'clock in the morning. 9 o'clock that night. We're standing at the opposite end of the store. In walks black woman, stretch pants, same hairstyle, jacket, whole nine. Looks just like this chick. I'm standing by the door. She comes up the steps, and I take a step back, and I do this to like get a visual of her face. And she goes, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Oh, I was just looking. I thought you were somebody from earlier." And then she goes, "No, it's not me, boo boo." And she like starts to walk by me. And then I turn to the loss prevention guy, and he goes, "Did you think that was the homeless lady from earlier?" And I said, "Yeah." She heard this. And she goes, "Do I look homeless to you? Do I look fucking homeless to you?" Now, my answer was, I said, "No." But she did look just like this chick and had on the same outfit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so now she's like fully in my ass. "Do I look motherfucking homeless to you? I graduated from this university and I'm this and I'm that and I got my degree." She's losing it. And I'm like, "Okay." I said, "Hey, I apologize. I'm sorry." Like, you know, I'm just like this. She walks off. I go back to my post. She does all of her shopping. She comes over and she's like, "I want to talk to your manager." Okay. So we get a manager. Manager comes down and then she's like, "He said that he thought I was homeless and da 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 da." And so I literally wrote this up. I said, "Hey, I sent that to my supervisor. This is what happened. This is how this went down. This is what this person said. This was the interaction, just a transparency report," because she was not letting it go. And she came into that store. She's come in 4 times since then that I've seen her. And every time she come in, she's just like, "Argh," like fucking just scowls at me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So like I've been there in that situation where you have to just say like, "Hey," and at one point in time, I think it was the second time that she came in, she goes, "They should have fired you from here." And I said, "Ma'am," I said, "I want to tell you that I apologize. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I put you in that situation. I'm sorry that you had to hear that conversation. I apologize. I'm sorry." And then after that, like, she hasn't said anything. But I took that stance of apologizing, of documenting it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I've been there.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. All right. That was a long one.
That was good.
All right.
Job.
Y'all have a good one. Be safe.